What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to make sure to like and subscribe as you come into the channel. Check out the content. And with that being said, I want to speak on a subject that a lot of people are not talking about. So, as you all know, the commissioner of the WNBA, the NBA, and the WNBA announced that there were going to be significant raises with this new collective bargaining agreement, right? Now, with the collective bargaining agreement, it don't mean that like just one side has to cater to the other side. Like there's going to be some agreements on both sides. And I think one of the agreements is going to be a rule that they're going to have is that while you're playing in the WNBA, you won't be allowed to own a professional basketball team or at least have or even have a percentage in a professional basketball team. And because it could be a conflict of interest, right? If the WNBA was to go on strike, which I don't think they are going to go on strike, but if they were to go on strike, then the Unrivaled League, which Nafisa Collier and Breonna Stewart have a stake in those leagues, in that league, then they could, it could be like a conflict of interest. They have a stake in that league. They play in the WNBA, and also they are representatives as far as like with the players' union. So they, that right there is not going to really sit right with the WNBA. And so once they start, once they get deep into negotiations, I think this Unrivaled League, I don't know if like right away the Unrivaled League will go away because I don't, I'm not sure that they're going to be able to do that. And the WNBA is not really threatened by Unrivaled as far as like being able to the Unrivaled being a competitor to the WNBA. But I do think that the WNBA will fall off right after a few even if it lasts a few seasons, a couple seasons, 2-3 seasons, I think eventually it's going to fall off because now you have other players in it. You have this European league that's starting up, and you can't have you don't want to have like WNBA players playing in the WNBA, playing in Unrivaled, and then possibly this European league is going to compete with both of those leagues for players and talent, right? So I don't think it's going to be like that. I think this Unrivaled League is going to wind up being a casualty of these negotiations and the expansion of the league. So and part of this agreement, I think, is they're going to set a rule up where as though, like I said, you can't be a player and then own any type of professional team, because it's a conflict of interest. Now, what I think is going to happen too is I think, like I said, that European League is going to cause the Unrivaled League that Breonna Stewart and Nafisa Collier have to pretty much it's probably going to fold. If it don't fold after this season coming up, it's probably going to be like two. I don't see it lasting no more than about 3 seasons for real. I don't see Unrivaled that lasting no more than about 3 seasons. Now, what's going to happen with the WNBA though, and I spoke on this in previous videos, that the WNBA is going to expand, not just on not just here in the United States and USA, but the WNBA they're going to expand and probably have some international teams. And the reason they're going to have to do that is because, all right, all right. So if the WNBA compete with the international team and pay their players, which they could do this too, they could pay the players of the WNBA so much money that the European leagues won't be able to compete with them. Which that's going to be that's going to be like almost that's going to be like all out war, right? If they want to compete with those European teams like that, or if the WNBA could take the route of allowing some of those European leagues, like with like after about couple years or so, allowing those teams that are in the European leagues that are success, like in certain areas, allow those to merge with the WNBA, the same way they did with the NBA. You know, like the NBA, you had the NBA, then you had the ABA, and they joined. I forgot. I know that it was the Spurs that came from the ABA, and it was the Denver Nuggets that came from the ABA. I think it was about four teams that came from the ABA, and they merged with the NBA. But and the reason why the NBA was able to merge with the ABA is because they still had room for growth. The WNBA still has room for growth, so they will be able to merge. You know, if that's what they choose to do, or if they just choose to shut the those European teams out altogether and compete with them, they could do that too. Because the WNBA, remember, is a part of the NBA, and they have relationships all over the world, as far as like sponsors and stuff like that. So the WNBA could do like the NBA and just take over and dominate everything and just freeze out the European League or whoever else around the world want to start up their own league. But they will have to pay their players accordingly. So either way, the players of the WNBA, either way that works out, the players of the WNBA really going to get a good raise, a big raise because of the world competition. And this also points out a fact that the WNBA could have expanded years ago, right? They could have gone international when the NBA went international, like when Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, and John Stockton, and Chris Mullins, Magic Johnson, all those guys was part of the dream team, and they was going around. You know, it basically was like they were ambassadors for the game, and they was showcasing the NBA around the world. They could have did the same thing at that same time with the WNBA, but they didn't do it. For what and that could be anybody's reason for like why they didn't do it. But typically, and I said this before in other videos, typically like female athletes from the United States really don't get paid fairly. Only way female athletes from USA can get paid fairly is if they're in a sport that has an international, like if they're in a sport where you can compete internationally, like tennis, golf, or any activity, like modeling. Like the models get paid a lot because like you especially like the international models, right? But like if you are just a female athlete and you here, you're not really they're not gonna pay you what you think you should get, and you can see that with like what are those X track and field stars, right? Like those, they don't really they make some money for a little while, but after that, they don't make a whole lot of money, and then so they have to go out and find um other sources of income. But this thing right here where you have Nafisa Kalia and Breonna Stewart, they found a temporary loophole. The NBA and the WNBA they're gonna seal that loophole up, so these young ladies won't be able to go out and own, even have stake in a team. They probably never really considered, because you got to think of it. They never really thought that this would happen. Like NBA, WNBA players will have ownership and stakes in a team, because you paying somebody $250,000, and some of these WNBA teams are worth what? One, I know, like a couple are like 300,000, 400,000. I mean, 300 million, 400 million, a half a billion. So if you paying somebody $250,000, like you never would think that, all right, these people can partner up with somebody, and but they did it. I think the players were like the WNBA and the NBA underestimated the women of this league, and then the Fisa and Breonna Stewart found this loophole, but they're gonna seal that up, man. And yeah, and so yeah, look forward to, like I said, the WNBA is either gonna have to expand. I mean, they're gonna have to merge with the European teams that's gonna be starting this other league over there. They're gonna merge, or either they're going to pay the WNBA players a whole lot of money and just phase out that and just compete with those European teams. So I'm curious to see which way it's gonna go. But that's my take on this subject right here, man. Y'all make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment, and I'll check you all out in the next video. Peace.